When I am faced with horror or tragedy, the only way I can cope with it is through wallowing in black humour. My beloved common-law husband, Harry Hobbs, nicknamed Peachey, and known thereafter as Peachey because he reminded me of a peach, died on the 21st of March 2017. He had just turned 75. He was resistant to all antibiotics. He had suffered from grade 4 emphysema since 2003. The immediate cause of his death was pneumonia in both his lungs. He and I had a perfect relationship, and we had been together since 1977. He was a saint and did not have a single bad bone in his body. At Christmas he handed out cards to all the residents of his street. Also, on Robert Maxwell's birthday, he always wore his best clothes in order to please me. He died at a National Health Hospital and asked all the patients on his ward if there was anything he could do for them and get to them, regardless of the fact that he was dying. Once, when he was having a good day, he went to the pediatric ward and danced in order to amuse the children. He was kind to everyone he met and had never delivered a cruel word in his life. One of his mottos was, "Never make an enemy if you can possibly make a friend." Another was, "It costs nothing to show consideration towards another human being." I don't think I will be able to have an affair with any man since Peachey's death. I keep the urn containing his ashes in my flat, as well as photographs of him, which comfort me. I miss him more than I can say in words. I favour Peachey more than I have favoured and will ever favour any other man. We first met in a hotel in Brighton. A man was due to have dinner with me, but he got cold feet. He rang Peachey up and said, "I've got to meet a woman for dinner tonight, but I haven't got the nerve to face her alone. Will you come and give me some support?" Peachey obliged. He bought me some flowers. Peachey was beautiful. He had fair hair and big blue eyes. We never quarrelled. He took me to every place I wanted to go to, including Marseille, my favourite place, where I liked to swim backwards and forwards across the harbour, much to his consternation. When I die, that is where I will have my ashes scattered. Peachey was a Cornishman and was proud of it. He had a strong Cornish accent. He was born in Loo. He was a keen sailor, a man of the sea. He refurbished several Cornish luggers single-handed, one of which he sold and which was sailed across the Atlantic. He called it the Eleanor B. Despite his Cornish roots, Peachey lived in Bristol in a cottage which he refurbished and built from practically nothing. He did the same thing with several cottages in Bristol. Before he moved to Bristol, he lived in Brighton, where he completed an honours degree in fine art. After that, he worked for an antique dealer as an artist, designer and craftsman. Due to my love for the macabre, inherited from my maternal grandmother, I bought him a second-hand Austin hearse to carry his things in. I preferred to drive the hearse myself and reach speeds of 110 miles an hour in it. Much earlier in his life, Peachey served in the Navy due to his love for the sea. I'm afraid I don't know the details regarding his service. His other loves, apart from the sea, were Mozart, champagne, and me. When Peachey was living in Bristol, I experienced the happiest period of my life. I stayed with him for long weekends where I did most of my writing and watched my favourite videos. I also got to know Peachey's son, Gareth, who moved into a house near his father after a horribly abusive childhood. Peachey's wife, Gillian, left Peachey when Gareth was 18 months old. Gareth was raised by Gillian and his odious stepfather, whose name was Martin Michael Hurls. They lived in Launceston in Cornwall. Hurls, a Scotsman, was nearly always drunk, was cruel to Gareth and beat him savagely even when he did not deserve it. I can name one occasion when the almost permanently drunken Hurls ill-treated Gareth. The boy was about 11 when boys start to wet the bed. Hurls ripped off his stepson's bedclothes, dragged him out of bed and threw him into a bath of freezing cold water. Shortly after that, Gareth, still aged about 11, came with some of his friends to meet Peachey and me in the Lord Elliot Hotel in Cornwall. There were tears in the boy's eyes. I asked him what the matter was. "Nothing," he replied. "That bastard Hurls has been roughing you about, hasn't he? I'm going to tell your father how unhappy he is making you," I said. "I have tracked down Hurls and written him one of my letters. He has never made much of himself. I have found out where he drinks. Not only have I sent him one of my letters, I have also sent a copy of my letter to his landlord. I have a word to say about boys wetting beds. An Irish psychiatrist once said to a friend of mine, 'Wetting the bed, to be sure, is a question of getting your peeing muddled up with your fucking.'" And now we go to my letter to Martin Michael Hurls, addressed 29th of May 2018. So it goes to Martin Michael Hurls, care of the landlord, the Westgate Inn, Westgate Street, Launceston, Cornwall, PL 15 7AD. "Dear Sir, it has been brought to my attention that you drink at the Westgate Inn in Launceston, Cornwall, and that you have 2 natural children, Melissa and Gerard Francis. I am also informed that your wife Gillian is deceased and that you used to beat her up. Finally, I am informed that you have a pronounced drink problem and that you were exceptionally cruel to your stepson, Gareth Lindy Hobbs, the natural son of Harry Lindy Hobbs, who is now deceased. To give an example of your unforgivable cruelty towards this boy, when you were under the influence, you plunged him into a bath which was filled with freezing water in a very small, poorly heated house on a cold winter's day. He was then about 11 or 12 years old, and his sole provocation was that of having wet the bed, which, as you must know, boys of approximately that age do, as a matter of course. Your behaviour shows that you are not a gentleman and never have been. I have informed the landlord of the pub, in which you drink for such long periods of time every day, about the deplorable conduct which you exhibited when you were younger. Although the offence towards your stepson was committed a long time ago, you are by no means exempt from my revenge. You took this boy away from his natural father when he was a baby. You raised him with inappropriately iron hand, and you broke his father's heart. Your behaviour towards Mr. Hobbs and his son was nothing short of disgraceful, and it is on behalf of Mr. Hobbs, God rest his soul, that I seek revenge. He was 100,000 times the man that you are, or were, or ever could be. It makes me angry when I think that he is dead, while a worthless, permanently befuddled bastard like you is still alive. I know where you live and where you drink. One day, not a long time hence, you will meet me in the flesh. I will not be coming alone, and my visit will not be friendly. Yours faithfully, Eleanor Berry, B.A. Hons English, author of 23 books. Now we come to Peachey's heartbreaking end. He was in hospital since the 4th of October 2016 and stayed in hospital until the 21st of March 2017 when he died. He had been in the Princess Grace Hospital, but when his insurance ran out, he was transferred to a National Health Hospital. Both hospitals were in London. His lungs got weaker and weaker until his body could take no more. Now we come to the comic part of this horrible story. The sheer shock had not yet registered when I was told that Peachey had died. I was asked to identify him in the mortuary of the hospital in which he had died. His beautiful face had been transformed into a vile and hideous mask. His head was thrown backwards as if he had broken his neck. His big blue eyes and mouth were still open. His skin was a yellowish-orange colour. I screamed and screamed and went on screaming. Then I shouted, "Tea, tea," to the mortuary attendant, who was a walking proverbial dickhead. After I had had some tea, I lost my temper with him. I shouted, "Do you think this is an appropriate manner in which to present a dead body?" "I was only doing my best," he replied. I said, "I'm not interested in your blasted bloody best when your best clearly isn't good enough. I added, it would do you a power of good to enroll at the Lear College of Embalming. The mortuary attendant gaped at me like an owl waiting to be fed. I hope you realize that I am a High Court judge, and I have the authority to relieve you of your responsibilities due to your criminal abuse of a dead body, and I have the authority to close this fucking hospital down, I said. I then took him by the scruff of the neck and dragged him to an unoccupied slab. Bend over the slab, boy. I beat him savagely with my walking stick until my arm got tired. I've never met anyone quite like you before, said the mortuary attendant. Don't worry, boy. I'll be back, I said. It is ironical that Peachey used to say, mortuaries are places to be spoken about with fucking reverence. I know he had been watching the scene from above and was laughing his head off, God bless him.